A lot of people thinking about housing right now. Do they buy? Do they sell? Do they just kind of stay as is? David Fry is a real estate expert with the Fry Group of Keller Williams, and he's joining us for his 5 real estate predictions for 15. Hi, Dave.
Well, hello. How are you today?
I'm great. It's great to have you on. First of all, is January usually a slow time in the housing world?
Honestly, it's a misnomer. It's actually relatively busy. Buyers start early. I think it's the cold chases people away or makes them think it's a reason to stay away, but it's actually a solid part of the year.
Okay. So what are your kind of thoughts right now? Is it a seller's market, a buyer's market, or just kind of even?
I think if it's okay, I'm going to give a little bit of history of 2014 that'll take us into answering your question, where the first half of 2014, we heard a lot about seller's market, which it was. We saw double-digit, growth. And by the end of 2014, really into the fall, we kind of softly landed into what I would call more of an even-keeled market, not really buyers, not really sellers. More honest is probably the best way I have to describe it. And I think we'll see that carry into 2015. We're starting to see, interest rates by the end of the year will start to tick up a little bit. So that
and that was one of the questions on my list. How will the interest rates play in? Because the Fed has said this might be the first time sometime this year that they will increase rates after a long, long time of just status quo.
Yeah, the predictions are, I don't think they'll have a strong impact on the purchasing market because they're still, 4.5% to 5% is what they're predicting, which is still traditionally extremely low and good buying power. But what you really see is probably going to affect the mortgage industry more than anything, as the refinances will kind of fall by the wayside. But there's not an expectation that we're going to lose a lot of purchase business at this point.
Okay, makes sense. All right, What about, and I'm talking with Dave Fry, if you have questions, if you are looking to buy or sell, or, some free expert advice right here, 651-989-9226, or all over the state, 866-989-9226. You can also text in your question or comment to 81807. Let's go through some of the different groups here, Dave.
Yeah.
First-time buyers, is this a good time for them? Are there any bonuses happening for them?
Well, it's actually a great time for first-time home buyers, and it's interesting. They've been kind of out of the marketplace for a while. They weren't a strong part of it. But with rates being low, the mortgage industry is kind of figured out after we've gone through all the trouble we went through. The programs are getting a little more lenient, so it's easier to get a loan. There's a good inventory out there, so it's a great time for first-time homebuyers, to be honest with you.
And how does that play out from the tax perspective? I mean, why is it a good idea for people to think about, or is it to stop renting and actually become that first-time buyer?
Well, I think that it's a personal budget. I personally don't think that it's just about the tax break, which is helpful, but you got to play into all of that. What we've really found in the Twin Cities here is that our rental market has been so strong. Rents are up. We're really coming to that point again where you look at, do I rent or do I purchase? And with rates being so low, purchasing becomes an extremely affordable option and probably a really wise choice. So it's one factor of many. But I think you'll find in most scenarios, if people can get the loan, that buying right now is a great option versus renting.
All right. What about refinancing?
Well, you sure want to take a look at it. Again, budget-wise, you're going to want to take a look at how does that. There's costs involved in refinancing. So a lot of times, unless you're got a 9% interest rate, a lot of times, your turnaround for effect isn't going to be at least 2 to 3 years. So meaning that you're going to have costs to do the loan, the refinance, the money that you saved, you're really not going to recoup for a couple to 3 years. So you want to make sure you take that into account.
Okay, one thing that I have to ask you, because I get, you hear these numbers, the 30-year loans versus the 15-year loans.
Yep.
And usually the 30 years are the fixed rate ones, right?
Well, they're both actually fixed rates,
okay.
30 and 15, correct.
But what about the whole adjustable rate mortgage?
Well, in today's marketplace, I think that's more of a sophisticated buyer. The fixed rate mortgages are so low that there's not that much of a difference between an adjustable rate and a fixed rate. And, a lot of times the adjustables are 3 years out, 5 years out, and then you're going to start adjusting at 1 to 2 to 3 to percent a year when you could be fixed at 4% for a lifetime. adjustable rates just don't make a lot of sense to me, to be honest with you.
Okay, yeah, and so that was probably something that was more going strong before we got these really, really low rates, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, makes sense.
So,
all right, I am talking with Dave Fry. He's a real estate expert, head of the Fry Group with Keller Williams. If you have any questions for him, give us a text, 81807. If you're preparing your house for market or thinking about buying yourself, he is the guy to talk to right now for a little bit of advice before you venture out into that journey. So give us a ring, 651-989-9226, or text 81807. Okay, Dave, your 5 real estate predictions for 15.
The 5 of them. Well, first one we talked a little bit about was the interest rates are going to go up. Again, not significantly, but they will inch upwards. The second one, home values. You were going to, like I said, we saw double-digit increases last year. I don't think we're going to see that this year. We'll see 3, 4, maybe as much as 6% increase, but probably more of a traditional increase or assessment on that anyway. New construction prices are definitely going to be, they're going to outpace the existing home market. Labor is up, materials are up, well, they're all up 8 to 10% or more. Plus the land values that they're building on have all gone up. So I think new construction has been a great option for the past couple of years, and it'll continue to be good, but what's going to happen is it'll outpace and start to make some of the existing choices look better than they have for a while.
Does it depend on the area, or does the more established home have a better resale than new construction? Or because there's some communities where those older homes just have that character that's very hard to get with new construction.
Yeah, well, and that's very true. That it absolutely it depends on the community and the location you're in, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of, you get into the inner city or some of these affluent areas where they're buying houses at $300,000 just to tear them down so they can put up $1 million property. Well, that's not really taking in, it's not a value perspective. That's just more of a want perspective. So
okay.
Kind of a long way around to the question.
Yeah, well, yeah, but no, I'm always curious about that. I mean, there are definitely some areas, too, where sometimes it's the smaller ramblers that are, torn down and then a bigger home, and they try to recreate that old world look of that community. Or I'm thinking around some of the lakes of Minneapolis, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Okay.
Exactly.
Any other predictions? Did we have one more?
A couple of them, if we get time.
Yep, go ahead.
Single-level townhomes, that was a piece of the market, actually been strong for a few years, but really came on strong the end of this past year. That will continue to go very well through probably the next couple of years. And that's really all about the baby boomers.
Okay. Not wanting stairs.
Not wanting stairs and wanting more freedom. That equates over into what we've seen in the condo market in St. Paul and Minneapolis as well. But wanting the ability to lock the door and go and take off when it's 5 below and get out of town for a month or a couple of months or something along those lines and not have to worry about the house.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something which right now I wish I could do.
Well, yeah, your friend sounds brilliant, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, what about just kind of some final tips for people who are thinking about buying this year?
I think for buyers, my biggest advice, one, make sure you get pre-qualified. Take the time to kind of go through your wants and needs list. But I get asked this question, how are buyers going to get the best deal? I think the best deals for buyers this year are going to be if you can look past some of the unfinished stuff or things that need to bring a house up to date. That's where the deals are right now. Because the market, and a lot of buyers have a hard time looking at that. They want it the way they want it when they walk in. Well, so does everybody. But if you can look past carpet and paint and maybe updating a kitchen, be realistic, but have a little vision. There's definitely deals out.
I love it. Be realistic, but have a little vision. That applies to most areas of life, right?
Exactly.
Dave Fry, real estate expert, how can people find you?
www.thefrygroup.com is always easy. Otherwise, you can always email me at david@thefrygroup.com. And any questions you have, I'll certainly be willing to help.
All right. Well, you have a very happy new year, and thanks for spending part of your time with us this Sunday.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.